Justina always knew she deserved more. More sparkle, more glamour, more yacht weekends and charcuterie boards shaped like Chanel logos. Instead, she got Max. Max, who wore the same college hoodie for a decade like it was some kind of vintage badge of honor. Max, who considered upgrading from a PlayStation 3 to 5 a major life accomplishment. Max, who thought a romantic weekend getaway was hiking a muddy trail 20 minutes from their house. Now, to be fair, Max wasn't terrible. He wasn't cheating, lying, gambling, or leaving wet towels on the bed. No, Max's crime was worse. He was average, and Justina, a certified consumer of aspirational content, could not allow average to contaminate her feed. Their story had started with promise. They met at a friend's housewarming where Max was repairing a broken cabinet while the other guests were drunk posting on Snapchat. A rare breed, stable, helpful, employed. After a string of shirtless disaster men who knew more about crypto than consent, Justina figured, why not? He took her on decent dates, asked questions, laughed at her jokes, even the ones that were more cruel than clever, and didn't once try to slide into her apartment uninvited. They dated, moved in, got married. Cue soft lighting, vision boards, and promises of shared ambition. And for a while, it worked. But then came the brunches, the girls, the stories. Stacy's husband surprising her with a Range Rover just because. Jen's partner buying a beach house in the Hamptons. Allie and her fiancé who got a promotion and a golden retriever in the same week. Meanwhile, Justina was celebrating Max finally fixing the leaky faucet she'd been nagging about for 3 months. The vibes were off. That night, as Max sat contentedly watching a documentary about sea turtles, because of course he did, Justina opened their banking app and then, oh yes, her sacred spreadsheet. The one where she, with the precision of a corporate auditor, tracked and compared her household income against that of her more Instagrammable friends. Spoiler: Max was losing. In silence, she added a new row to another document she kept hidden. Reasons to leave. A living, breathing list of Max's perceived failures. It wasn't dramatic, just organized, clinical really, bullet-pointed mediocrity. The next morning, Max, clueless and cheerful, made eggs. He suggested a hike. Justina suggested a reality check. "Don't you think you should focus on that certification you said would help you at work?" she said, pushing eggs around like they personally offended her. Max blinked, hurt. "I thought we said I'd do that next quarter." "Things never slow down, Max. That's just your excuse." Then she showed him Stacy's new Range Rover. Because nothing says encouragement like shoving luxury in someone's face before 9 a.m. She didn't mean to snap. It just happened. A dam broke. "You're not a bad guy, Max," she said, smiling the smile of a woman who thinks she's the main character in a redemption arc. "You're just not a man I can brag about." Max blinked once, then again, like he was trying to clear a fog from his brain. But this time, he didn't walk away. He didn't go quiet. "No," he finally snapped. "Seriously, Justina," he said, setting down his coffee like it had personally betrayed him. "You want someone to brag about? Since when? When we met, you said you loved that I wasn't like your exes, that I wasn't some shirtless idiot with a ring light and a protein sponsorship." Justina rolled her eyes. "That was before I realized I'd married a guy who thinks hiking counts as romance." Max stepped closer, arms crossed, not budging. "No, that was before your entire personality got replaced with whatever your friends are posting. You didn't used to care about gated communities or luxury SUVs. You used to laugh at that stuff. Now you have a spreadsheet comparing salaries like we're competing in the Sad Olympics." She scoffed. "I just want a better life, Max. Is that a crime?" "No, but maybe wanting a better life doesn't mean tearing down the one you already have. You act like I tricked you, like I lured you in with promises of yacht parties and champagne faucets." "You did talk about a 5-year plan," she snapped. "Yeah, one where we build something together, not where I become your build-a-husband project while you judge me against Greg from finance who probably cries in his Tesla." Justina turned away, face hot with anger. "I just don't want to be the only one in the group who has nothing to show." "You had love, Justina, a home, A husband who cared, but I guess that's not enough when your friend posts a picture with a damn beach house filter. He looked down for a second, like he was trying to decide whether to keep going. Then he shook his head. I used to think we were on the same team. Turns out I was just your bench warmer while you scouted for someone shinier. Justina stared at him, stunned. She had been ready for silence, maybe a slammed door, not this. Max grabbed his keys. You know what? I'm not the man you brag about. Fine, but at least I'm not the one who forgot who they are. And with that, he left. Not with a dramatic slam, not with fireworks. Just quiet disappointment and the kind of exit that leaves a hole instead of a bang. Max didn't come home that night, or the next. Justina expected some dramatic return, maybe with a suitcase, a monologue, flowers from the gas station. Instead, she got silence. Deafening, deliberate silence. The man who used to text her goodnight even if they were in the same house had ghosted her like she was a bad Tinder date. And to make things worse, he took his passport, not just a toothbrush and clean socks, his actual passport. That wasn't cooling off. That was, I might be getting a new life in Portugal. Justina waited, first annoyed, then irritated, then panicked. By day 3, she called his phone, straight to voicemail. She sent a text. Nothing. She called his brother, who, in true sitcom fashion, claimed he didn't know where Max was. Lies. All of it. She showed up at Max's office ready to throw hands, or at least some heavy shade. But surprise, Max was on personal leave. Personal leave. The man who once insisted on working through the flu had suddenly decided now was the perfect time to practice mindfulness. His co-worker, the only one who hadn't ducked behind a plant, mumbled something about Max needing space. Space. From what? Her high expectations? Her spreadsheet of disappointment? At home, Justina marched straight to their closet and did a quick audit. His favorite hoodie? Gone. His hiking boots? Gone. That ugly green sweater she always hated but he claimed was lucky? Also gone. And that's when it hit her. This wasn't a pause. This was an exit. Still, she wasn't done. No, ma'am. She pulled out her lists. Upgrades for Max and reasons to leave, and read them like a script that would prove how justified she was. Maybe she'd turn them into a blog post. When your husband lacks drive, a survival guide. Clickbait gold, but something felt off. She tried calling her friend Lauren, expecting full throttle support. Instead, she got the emotional equivalent of a shrug. What exactly did you say to him? Lauren asked cautiously, like approaching a feral cat. I just told him the truth, Justina snapped, that he's not the man I can brag about. Silence. Then, softly, don't you think that was a bit harsh? Honesty isn't harsh, Justina insisted. No, but contempt is. She hung up, furious, betrayed. Obviously, everyone was overreacting. Except her. The next day, she got the email. Not a message, not a call. An email. Max wrote that he'd be stopping by to pick up more of his things while she was at work. He even said he'd leave his key, like this was a roommate breakup, not the end of a marriage. Justina wasn't having that. She called in sick to work, translation, emotional meltdown in yoga pants, then parked herself by the window like a suburban sniper and waited. When Max pulled into the driveway and spotted her car, he froze. Don't you dare drive away, she yelled, running out barefoot like some reverse rom-com. You can't just ghost your wife. Max stepped out slowly. He looked different. Not angry. Just done. The kind of done that doesn't yell. The kind that's been simmering in silence for years. I'm not ghosting you, he said, his voice frustratingly calm. I told you I was coming to get my things. Without talking to me? Without even trying to fix things? He actually laughed. Not a real laugh. That bitter, hollow sound men make when they realize they've been idiots for too long. Fix what, Justina? You don't want me. You want a Pinterest version of me. A PR-friendly husband with abs and a 6-figure salary you can humble brag about during brunch. That's not fair, she snapped. Oh, but spreadsheets are? He didn't wait for a response. I saw them, by the way. Your little files. Reasons to leave, income comparisons, the damn PowerPoint presentation of all the ways I failed you. Justina froze. She'd left her laptop open that morning before the fight. Those were private, she mumbled. So was our marriage. But here we are. He shook his head. You weren't trying to help me. You were preparing your defense for when you finally dumped me and needed your friends to clap for it. You don't get it. No, Justina. I get it now. I used to think I wasn't enough for you. But the truth is, nothing would have been. Not unless it had a yacht, a personal trainer, and an Amex Black Card attached. She opened her mouth to say something, anything. But Max just stepped around her, cool as ever. I'll come back another time for the rest. And just like that, the man she once called her rock walked off like the earthquake had already happened. After Max pulled away, tires quiet on the driveway like some poetic mic drop, Justina stood there for a full minute, arms crossed, barefoot, staring at the spot where his car had been like she could will it back with attitude alone. He didn't come back. Not that night. Not the next. Not with a text. Not with flowers. Just silence. And silence, as it turns out, is very loud when you live in a house filled with passive-aggressive throw pillows and absolutely no one to argue with about leaving cabinet doors open. The first few days, Justina was on autopilot. She made coffee, answered emails, pretended she was totally fine, thank you very much. She even posted a photo of her matcha latte with the caption, "Peace over chaos." No one needed to know the chaos was actually her, in a hoodie she hadn't washed in days, refreshing Max's Instagram like it owed her money. But by day 5, reality arrived, uninvited and smug. She walked into the kitchen, stepped on a Lego Max had begged her to throw out when her nephew visited, and suddenly burst into tears. Not because it hurt, though it did, but because it was still there. He was still everywhere, his coffee mug, his shoes in the hall, that damn red sweater hanging behind the door like it missed her too. And the worst part? Nobody cared. Her so-called friends, the brunch squad, the poolside philosophers, were already moving on. The group chat had gone eerily silent, except for the occasional picture of Jen's new puppy and a round of heart emojis about Allie's pregnancy announcement. Nobody asked how Justina was doing, so she took the initiative. She called Lauren. No answer. She called Stacy. Finally picked up. "Hey, want to grab drinks tonight?" Justina asked, trying to sound casual, like she wasn't spiraling on her staircase in pajama pants. Stacy hesitated. "I have plans with Greg. Maybe next week?" Justina frowned. "You and Greg have had plans every night since the invention of time." There was a pause, then with a sigh, "Look, Justina, some of us are still a little uncomfortable." "Uncomfortable with what?" "I'm the one who got ghosted. No one's saying Max was perfect, but the way you treated him, it made a lot of us rethink some things." "Like what, Stacy? That I held him to basic standards? That I encouraged him to grow?" "You made him a checklist." "It was a helpful checklist. You tracked his income next to our husband's. Justina, come on." "I just wanted him to reach his potential." "No," Stacy said, voice flat. "You wanted a luxury lifestyle with a man who came with a loyalty program." Click. That was the moment Justina realized she wasn't just losing a husband. She was losing the curated life she had built around him. The couple's dinners, the mutual friends, the identity of being married in a sea of Instagram singles. Now she was the woman people whispered about, the one who pushed too hard and ended up alone. That night, she sat in the living room, still their living room, surrounded by a life she used to think was beneath her. She opened her laptop to Reasons to Leave, but ended up staring at a blank screen. The list was over. Max had left. And the silence. It wasn't peaceful anymore. It was punishment. After a week of wallowing in silence, takeout containers, and aggressively curated Spotify playlists titled "Healing But Make It Vengeful," Justina had a revelation. No more waiting. Max wanted out? Fine. Let him wander the wilderness of mediocrity in peace. She, on the other hand, was going to thrive. Rebrand, reinvent, return to the feed with a vengeance, new life, new hair, new man. She didn't waste time. 2 days later, she downloaded a dating app, chose the most just casually flawless selfie she had, full glam, natural lighting, borderline thirst trap, and wrote a bio that screamed effortless elegance while whispering, "Please have an MBA and drive something German." Enter Preston. Preston worked in finance. Of course he did. Wore a watch that probably needed its own insurance policy, and spoke with the kind of confidence that can only be inherited, not earned. He had that high-end vibe, like he'd never stood in line at a Target, but somehow had opinions about wine pairings. He messaged her first. "You look like someone who knows what she wants." She replied, "Depends on the day. Today, champagne." He sent an address, a rooftop bar, 8 p.m., game, set, upgrade. When Justina arrived, Preston was already there, sipping something expensive and disinterested. He stood when she walked in, subtle flex, and smiled like he'd just closed a merger. Max used to wear hoodies from high school. Preston looked like he fired people for fun. The date went down smoother than the $30 cocktail he ordered for her without asking. He asked about her job, and yes, Justina may have elevated her role from salon manager to creative director in the beauty space, and dropped casual hints about his second condo, his place in Aspen, and how he's just between investment opportunities right now. Translation: rich and deeply unavailable. Still, she was hooked. Preston was shiny. He checked every box. Successful, stylish. The kind of man who didn't say "I love you" but might forward you his travel itinerary for Saint-Tropez. He even invited her out again. Dinner at a place where the wait list was longer than her last relationship. There were oysters. There was truffle foam. There was even a jazz trio. There was also one small blinking red flag. Preston never put his phone down. He checked it mid-sentence, mid-toast, possibly mid-chew. But Justina ignored it. Because when she posted a boomerang of their champagne glasses, the replies were immediate. "OMG, girl, who's the man? Is this your glow-up era?" For the first time in weeks, Justina didn't feel pitied. She felt envied, and envy for her was almost as addictive as love. It took exactly 3 dates for Preston to start referring to Justina as fun company. Not girlfriend, not partner, just fun company, like she was a dessert wine he wasn't planning on finishing. At first, Justina laughed it off. Surely he was just being light, playful, casually non-committal in that rich boy who trusts no one but his mother's lawyer kind of way. But by the 5th date, she started noticing the pattern. He introduced her to a colleague as, "Justina, she's in, beauty." He rescheduled twice because of last-minute client dinners. He replied to her texts with voice notes under 3 seconds. And when they were out together, he looked at her just enough to make her feel seen, and then looked past her to scan the room for anyone he might actually care to impress. Still, Justina persisted. Because that's what ambitious women do, right? They don't quit. They pivot. She started dressing sharper, booking her own lash appointments again, posting aesthetic morning coffees with captions like, "Manifestation mode, on." She even started calling Preston her boyfriend at brunch, hoping if she said it enough, it might actually become true. The breaking point came at an invite-only gala Preston took her to, her official debut as the girl on his arm. Justina wore a gown she couldn't afford and confidence she barely felt. She imagined the moment like a movie, twinkling lights, champagne towers, everyone whispering, "Who's that stunning couple?" Instead, Preston introduced her 4 times as his friend. Friend, like they hadn't spent the last month sleeping together, like she hadn't literally shaved above the knee for this man. At the bar, she finally cracked. "So, friend, huh?" she asked, lips tight, voice sweet enough to rot teeth. Preston didn't even blink. "Relax, Justina. We're having fun. Let's not turn this into something serious." "You mean something real?" "I mean something heavy," he said, already glancing over her shoulder, possibly scanning for someone named Tiffany, who inherited a vineyard. She swallowed the sting, and the rest of her champagne, That's interesting, she said coolly, because I thought I was dating a man, not a networking event in a suit. Preston smiled, that smug, polished, can't-touch-me smile, and delivered the final blow. Look, you're beautiful, you're smart, but if you're looking for a relationship, I don't think I'm your guy. And that was that. No drama, no apology, just casual rejection wrapped in compliments and served with a twist of emotional vacancy. Justina went home that night and sat in the dark, not because she was being dramatic, okay, a little, but because she didn't have the energy to turn the lights on. Her dress was still perfect, her makeup still flawless. But inside, she felt ridiculous. She had traded stability for status, kindness for clout, love for luxury she couldn't even afford without a man's bank account attached. And the irony? She couldn't even be mad at Preston, because deep down, she'd done the same thing to Max. The next morning, Justina woke up on the couch in a dress that cost more than her rent and dignity combined. One eyelash was stuck to her cheek, her hair looked like it had been in a minor car accident, and her phone was face down on the floor like even it was tired of her decisions. She stared at the ceiling, questioning every life choice since the first brunch where someone said the word manifest, unironically. She had chased the dream, the polished boyfriend, the high-end restaurants, the matching wine glasses for Instagram stories. And what did she get in return? A man who introduced her as his friend after 3 months of exclusive dating and expensive oysters. She spent the next 2 hours deleting every trace of Preston from her phone. Gone were the rooftop selfies, the champagne boomerangs, and the caption drafts that read like self-help quotes dipped in delusion. For a moment she hovered over Instagram, debating whether to post something cryptic and self-righteous like, "Sometimes losing him is the glow-up." But even she wasn't buying it anymore. Instead, she closed the app and sat in silence. Not peaceful, healing silence. The kind that echoes with, "How did I get here?" That afternoon, her phone buzzed with a message from a name she hadn't seen in months. Cassie. Not one of her new status friends who only texted her when there was a group photo opportunity. No, Cassie was from another life. The one where Justina still ate carbs, laughed without checking angles, and believed in love over lifestyle. They drifted apart when Justina upgraded her circle to match her Pinterest board, but Cassie had never unfollowed. She just watched, silently, like someone standing outside a house she used to live in. "Heard about you and Preston, want to grab coffee? I think we're overdue for a talk." Justina hesitated. Her pride told her to ignore it. Her loneliness overruled. "Sure," she texted back. They met the next morning at a coffee shop that didn't have a single selfie ring light in sight. Cassie wore jeans and zero contour. Justina wore sunglasses indoors like someone trying to hide a bad night and worse life choices. Cassie hugged her like nothing had changed, and like everything had. They talked for a while. Small things, work, gossip, Jen's new baby, Stacy's mysterious silent retreat that was definitely rehab in disguise. Then Cassie said it, the line that pierced through all the carefully applied numbness. "I saw Max last week." Justina blinked. "You... what?" "He was getting coffee. I almost didn't recognize him. New haircut, more confident. He asked about you." Justina tried to play it cool, failed miserably. "What did he say?" "Just wanted to know if you were okay. Said he'd heard things." Things. The kind of vague word that carried more weight than facts. "He's doing well, Justina," Cassie continued. "Started that business he always talked about. Looks grounded, like someone who finally got out from under something." Justina laughed, sharp, defensive. "Well, good for him." Cassie didn't bite. She just sipped her coffee and asked gently, "But how are you?" Justina opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. "Honestly, I feel like a supporting character in my own breakdown." Cassie reached across the table. "I didn't bring this up to make you feel worse. I just miss you, the real you, not the curated one, not the one chasing whatever life Instagram told her she was supposed to want." Justina swallowed hard. "I think I lost her." Cassie smiled. Then it's time to find her again. Back home, Justina stood in the middle of the apartment, their apartment, and suddenly it didn't feel curated anymore. It felt haunted, not by ghosts, no, by choices, by silence, by the fact that every piece of furniture had a memory attached, and not the Pinterest kind. The ugly red sweater still hung on the back of the chair Max always used. She'd meant to throw it out a dozen times, but there it was, like it knew. She sat on the couch and pulled out the divorce papers, still buried under a stack of unopened credit card statements and one too many scented candles. Max had filed quietly, efficiently, like someone closing an account they no longer used. She hadn't signed them yet, not because she was still in love. At least, that's what she told herself. But because signing them meant admitting that she hadn't just lost a man. She'd lost the plot. That she'd traded something real for something photogenic. That she'd mistaken aesthetic for intimacy. Her phone buzzed. Another notification. Jen Anmark posted a story, clinking wine glasses on a yacht. Caption, "Just us and the open sea." Justina stared at it. She zoomed in on Jen's new ring, an upgrade obviously, and thought about the spreadsheet she used to update obsessively. The list of reasons Max wasn't enough, the imagined life she'd convinced herself she deserved, and for once, instead of spiraling, she laughed. A short, bitter, God I was insufferable kind of laugh. Then she did something radical. She unfollowed Jen, then Stacy, then Allie, then every single account that ever made her feel like her life needed a filter to be worth anything. It wasn't much. It wouldn't bring Max back. It wouldn't erase what she'd said. It wouldn't fill the apartment with warmth again. But it was a start. A small, awkward, uncomfortable start. The kind of start that didn't come with hashtags or heart emojis. Just a whisper of honesty in a room full of noise. She took a breath. A year later, Justina didn't live in that apartment anymore. She'd downsized, a cozy one-bedroom with mismatched plates and a cat she named after her favorite concealer. Life wasn't glamorous, but it was hers. No spreadsheets, no vision boards, just plants she sometimes forgot to water and a diary full of pages that didn't need validation. She never got back together with Max. But once, on a quiet Sunday, she ran into him at a bookstore. He looked good, not in the Instagram way, but in the peaceful, slept well, knows who he is now way. They chatted, polite, kind. He mentioned his business was doing well. She mentioned she was taking night classes in design. No bitterness, no awkwardness. Just two people who had once loved each other, and then outgrew the version of themselves that did. Preston? He's allegedly engaged now. To a woman who also works in finance, who likely answers emails during arguments and probably has a prenup with its own legal team. Justina saw it on LinkedIn. She didn't even roll her eyes. Much. Cassie? Still a real one. They meet for coffee twice a month now. No filters, no fake smiles. Just two grown women talking about life, not lifestyle. And Justina? She no longer compares. She no longer posts quotes she doesn't live by. She still loves pretty things, but not more than she loves her peace. Turns out the glow-up wasn't luxury. It was leaving the performance behind.